Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying your Monday. So, the big news of the weekend, of course, was America bombs Iran, nuke sites. Um, you know, what can you say, really? There's not much to say. Um, a lot of people question on whether or not they actually destroyed anything. And I think that's one of those you probably really won't ever know. Um, and I know some people question the bomb's ability to penetrate, and they use all kinds of weird analogies and examples, comparisons of this or that. But none of this stuff is developed in a vacuum. So I would just put that out there. Like, literally, America out in the western deserts here in the States test these bombs. And I'm just saying, if they penetrate 200 feet, they know they penetrated 200 feet. Just drop them into the desert. I'm sure there's even a mountain range, but there's no point in destroying your mountain range, your mountains, right? So they definitely drop them in the desert. There's actually videos of that. And I almost guarantee you they turn around and put steel and cement objects up and then re-drop them over and over and over just to prove the point that these bombs can really penetrate deep. How many of them would it take to hit a facility 300 feet deep or 200 feet deep, whatever they were estimating? Well, first thing, these weren't, I've never heard any reports more than 300 feet, so it wasn't expected to be like 1,000 feet deep, right? And so if America says these new bombs never used before were tested to hit depths of 200 feet, and you piled, I don't know, let's say you piled 4 of them into each hole, and let's say there's 2 different spots on, Fordo, or whatever it's called, right? Potentially, you could have went as far down. Well, I'm not going to use the top number, but let's say potentially you could have went like 1,000 feet deep with those four hits in 2 different areas. And then, what did they say? They used 12 total, or I think they said they used 12 total. I can't remember anymore, guys. But the other ones went to the other sites, right? That's what they said anyway. So potentially you hit like 1,000 feet deep, potentially, using 8 or 9 of them on Fordo. So I think, here's my personal opinion, although you and I don't really know, and we can't really know, I don't know if there's much hope that those areas survive. But like anyone, and I said this back when Israel had been bombing, I will admit, a guy like me who's not a nuclear science, one of the most simplest things I had ever thought of was, well, you would expect, I think, at least to be detecting some type of radiation leak coming out of the hole if there was damage done. I think that's what everybody normal thinks, an average person. There again, I'm not a nuclear science, so maybe what I think should be reality isn't really reality at all. Maybe that's not what I would expect. But in my mind, I think of like Chernobyl. I walk around Chernobyl today, right? My radiation meter's going ding, 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 ding. It's going off the chart, right? Because there's nuclear activity being produced. That was above ground. This is, of course, below ground. But I would suspect if you pierced it, right, some nasty chemicals are leaking out there. And I suspect that no tunnels ever developed without ventilation pipe systems. There's ventilation, air holes dug usually in tunnels. I would not suspect that this would be any different. I would suspect through those air pipes there would be signs of some type of radioactive contamination leaking out. Maybe it is happening. I still think, generally speaking, the United States is still looking at damage assessment. I wouldn't even be surprised if they're flying U-2 spy planes over, even though that's kind of an old technology. It still serves its purpose, and it can be safely done because Iran's air defense is essentially destroyed. So it has really safe skies, right? So I don't know where all this ends up going to, but it's fascinating. And then waking up today, Iran launched, 3, 4, 5, 6 missiles into Qatar, or you want to go. Not a big shock. And even the part of the news that says that they made a phone call to warn everyone probably happened. I mean, they've done it before, right? They did it when they struck those bases in Iraq a while back. So it sounds like this would be something. And I do think legitimately, unless Donald Trump would deem it necessary, like say they deem that they didn't get the damage on the excuse me guys, let me grab a drink. Oh, sorry about that. I'm like a food particle or something. I do think, unless they would deem they only hit maybe 60 or 70% of that facility, and somehow they deem that the major stuff wasn't hit at all, then maybe you would see the bombers fly back in there for one more attack. But I generally suspect, unless Iran goes and does something stupid and starts killing Americans in the Middle East, I do suspect that's it. I mean, Donald Trump is a guy, generally speaking, who's never been too excited about putting guys in harm's way, particularly ground forces, and there's no reason to escalate something. And I don't know. I don't know what to say, really, because without having real deep intel shared with you, the American citizen, which is never going to ever get those things, not from anyone, right? The government, unless it chooses to tell you, they're never going to give you some kind of deep intel on whether or not they think they destroyed Iran's nuclear program or not. And then guys like me, who's been in and around mining throughout my life, can also tell you that regardless of that situation, right, if there's anything worth saving over the next 5 or 10 years, they'll just dig that area out and that program will be back up and launched again. So if it's damaged, it's for sure going to set you back a few years. If it's completely destroyed, the mountains collapsed on top of everything, for example, that's a much bigger project, and that might push you back past a decade. So, but the only thing other I want to say is, because I want to not necessarily be a Republican or a Democrat, even though I am a Republican on this regarding the situation, is that there's no real reason. Okay, here's what I would say. If you're a person who's just going to be a negative Nancy, we didn't do nothing to Iran. If you're one of those people that just refuse to believe that America did any damage at all to Iran, okay, you're just an idiot. I would just say those people are idiots. But if you're a fair-minded human being, then you gotta at least understand, like, if anyone was going to tell you the truth, it'd be the American government, which tends to be very transparent in stuff that they do, especially in modern warfare. Opposite of Iran, who, for example, has already posted right now on the internet, which I'm here working, so I ain't going to show you this, but you can go Google it if you want. And it's already been reported on Fox News and everything. They've literally already reported by the Iranian regime that the missiles they launched in the Qatar today on the Iranian state television, they're already telling you they destroyed that American base. It's wiped out. That's what they're telling their American people. Just like when back when we went in under Bush in Iraq the second time, Bush Jr., right? George Bush Jr. The first election I ever voted in. But I'm just saying, if you remember, we had, I don't even remember what the hell the guy's name was, but in America we nicknamed him Baghdad Bob. You remember Baghdad Bob? Every day Baghdad Bob was in Iraq's camera room, in their strategy room, press room, whatever you want to call it. And every day he was sitting there every day, and he was telling everybody in his country and to the world, right, broadcasting out, we stopped the American Abrams tanks at the entrance of the city of Baghdad. Yesterday we slaughtered America's advancement at the Euphrates River, right? Like every day he would come on and just lie every day. And every day America was just advancing across the desert. They weren't holding anything down. They weren't stopping anything. It was just like the first Gulf War, but to a lesser extent, because they never regained that type of level of strength again. But they were just being slaughtered all across the desert, anywhere and everywhere. I don't really remember. Once the ground troops moved, didn't they get to Baghdad in like 3 days or something like that? Like, it was super fast. And so what I'm saying is, these guys, they lie. And your government is not perfect, but rarely is it on something like this. Right? I'm not saying they never lie. I'm saying on something like this, they rarely lie. And we know Donald Trump says anything, but what I'm saying is these guys literally lie. Just like right now. Oh, we've destroyed America's air base in Qatar. It's completely destroyed. All American aircrafts, they cease to exist. Huge American casualties. Oh, God, big casualties. Right? That's what they tell their people. But what I'm saying is there's no truth to that. I don't even think any missile hit. I think every one of them was intercepted. Okay? So, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're one of these American sort of negative Nancy type people who just always want to think negative about America, everything, where you're a crazy, kooky, far right wing or far left nut job dim, and all your response is to any American military action is it never happened, it never happened. Oh, it's all about the oil. It's all about the oil. Like, I'm an old man. I'm in my 40s now. My whole life, every war they tell you, every war they always say, it was about oil, about oil. It was never about oil in the bigger picture of things. But every country had oil. You see, so you can't, even if it had actually nothing to do with oil, or very little to do with oil, every country has oil. So it's kind of like circle reasoning. They never have to actually explain anything. They can just say loopy things and whatever. So I would just say I would trust more in your government that these things happened, and yet be a little bit skeptic on if you actually set Iran's nuclear program behind. Because like I already explained, I would suspect you would be able to detect like radiation or something, but this is also coming from a guy that's not a nuke scientist, right? So maybe what I assume would be normal isn't actually normal. I don't know. But these weapons don't get produced, and they don't even get manufactured if they don't deliver what they say they do. I think, and you're seeing that right now in the real world. The difference between American weaponry and Russian weaponry is it works. And the reason why is America, since after like World War II, has always had very high standards. If they're going to spend $1 trillion buying something, they need to know that it works like 95% of the time. Like it delivers 95% of the time. America doesn't even produce weapons. Rarely do they produce weapons that fall out of the 90% category. Almost no weapon program makes it into procurement and development if it falls to 90%. I mean, America damn near wants perfection when it comes to their warfighting stuff. Perfection as far as the technology can carry it, right? They have a checklist of things and criteria it has to meet. It has to meet those things. And for example, when they developed the 30,000-pound bunker buster, it was to replace the old ones, or not to replace any of the old ones, but it was sole purpose was to get at deep facilities. They're deep. The stuff that Israel was using was probably good at 80 or 70, 50 feet deep, right? So they were developed with a purpose. They're tested literally hundreds of times before they go into production. So what's more likely, that they can't get at least 200 feet deep, or that the mountain stopped it from getting 200 feet deep? It doesn't make no sense, because they test this stuff in the American desert all the time. All those Air Force bombing range, that's where this stuff gets tested. It smashes through ground, rock, gravel, mountain, concrete, steel, you name it, it does it. And the fact that you know that they launched on this one particular site, like at least 6 to 8 missiles on that one site, it doesn't seem very likely that it didn't succeed, or at least dig that deep. Now maybe they had no idea underground where the facility actually set, and that's a whole nother story. But just simply believing, because you essentially are a commo, an anti-American citizen living in America, and that nothing good ever happens, and you just always go to conspiracy news. That didn't do it. That's BS, and those type of extreme positions are never accurate. Anyway, they're always wrong. Have a good day, guys. Enjoy work. Talk to you later. God bless. See you later. Bye.